Last week, we told you about the staggering costs many families incur in order to stay in touch with their loved ones who are in prison. Money spent on phone calls and in-person visits quickly adds up. Reporter Barbara Brosher is back with us for part 2 of the series, The Hidden Price of Prison. Barbara, how do families cope with these costs?
Well, it's certainly not easy, Joe. For many families, they're struggling to keep themselves afloat, so providing emotional and financial help to incarcerated loved ones isn't always doable. But there is some relief for families who are overwhelmed. This week, we introduce you to people who are dedicated to making sure prisoners and their families get the support they need. Once a month on a Saturday morning, Annette Barner and her 2 kids get up early to get on the bus.
I've been riding the bus, be going on 5 years in May.
But this bus isn't going to the mall. It's not taking them to the movies. It's heading nearly 2 hours southwest of Indianapolis to Wabash Valley Correctional Facility. It's a trip that takes the entire day, but one Barner insists on making.
It means a whole lot to him. You know, if we don't come and see him, it messes up his whole month.
They're here to see Barner's fiance, Floyd Teague. He'll likely be in prison for several more years after being convicted of multiple felony counts, including drug dealing. But when he's reunited with his family during monthly visits, Teague seems like a regular dad.
He is the first one to show me that he really cares and show the financial support, all the support that we need, he gives it to us.
Seeing moments like this is what gives Cecelia Whitfield a sense of purpose. She's the one who helped Barner and her kids make the trip, a trip they otherwise couldn't afford.
This is my only way. Even though I have a car, you know, no one wants to put a wear and tear on their car.
Whitfield is the woman behind the Use What You've Got prison ministry, which has been helping families connect with their incarcerated loved ones for more than 25 years. It's a struggle she knows well.
In 1988, I was just so excited. My son had just graduated from Chautauqua High School and in June, and by August of '88, he was facing 40 years of prison time.
Whitfield started the ministry after other women started asking her for rides when she went to visit her son in prison.
You have daycare, you have, everything is on that mother. And they got everything, the food, the rent. So it's expensive to live out here when you have a loved one that's incarcerated.
The rides became so popular, she and her husband had to borrow money to buy a school bus. Now the ministry uses several vans to transport families to prisons all over the state every weekend. People pay what they can for a ride. Whitfield never turns anyone away, even if they have nothing to give. For many, being on the bus with other families facing the same obstacles is a lot like therapy.
The families are called the hidden victims because we know the problem, the trouble that our sons or our husband may have committed and they victimize someone, but no one thinks about the families, what we go through, the tears and the hurt and the pain and the shame and the embarrassment of having a child in prison on drugs, stealing. That's very hard.
Studies have consistently found that maintaining contact with family members while incarcerated reduces an offender's chance of recidivism once released. A 2011 study by the Minnesota Department of Corrections found the likelihood of being reconvicted of a felony was 13% lower for inmates who received visits. LaDon Clanton knows just how important family connections are to prisoners because he used to be one. He now works at Public Advocates and Community Reentry, or PACE, an organization dedicated to helping offenders transition back into life after prison. For him, getting out of prison wouldn't have been possible without his family's support.
You don't want to let them down as well as yourself. And then, just that bond, that working relationship in achieving your goals is, that's the foundation to success.
He works alongside another ex-con and former PACE client, William Groves. Groves says he never expected to get out of prison and have a good-paying job, let alone a place of his own. They're all things, he says, he couldn't accomplish without the support of his loved ones.
I really thought when I was locked up that my life was pretty much over, that I had failed and that I was going to have to start from the beginning. It has not been anything that I've expected. Through the support of my recovery network and through here and stuff, you know, I've seen so many amazing things happen in my life.
That gives Annette Barner hope that when Teague is released in a few years, they'll see amazing things happen in their lives too. Until then, she'll keep sacrificing her Saturdays so her kids can see their dad. It's extra motivation for Teague to stay out of trouble so he can come home.
I notice when they're incarcerated, if you got someone who's writing you, coming to see you, you know, giving them some of your time, you know, they're less in trouble down there. You know, they focus on what they need to do to come home because they want to be on the outside world.
So Barbara, as you said it in your reporting, if prisoners can spend time with their family while they're in prison, it helps keep them out of trouble when they get out. But then why does it seem like the state charges so much for them to keep in touch with their families?
You know, the state is working with these companies that come in and provide these services. There are certain guidelines that say they can only charge so much, but you know, they make money off this deal too. It costs $7.20 an hour for a half-hour phone call, which doesn't seem like a lot when you're thinking of that one call, but it really adds up after months and weeks, and it's a good chunk of money for people. They spend a lot of money going on visits too. They buy food, it takes the whole day. A lot of them take money to use in the vending machines because they want to treat their loved ones. So it adds up really quickly, and a lot of these families just don't have the money.
How about any financial struggles continue after prisoners are released?
It depends on every unique situation, but for example, the family we told you about last week, they're hoping to get an offender, Steven Snyder, out on house arrest. That costs money. There are fees associated with that. We know a lot of offenders who are released from prison don't necessarily have jobs lined up, so they have no source of income. There are certain organizations, though, like PACE and Indy, that work to try and get inmates jobs and help them transition into the real world so that they do have a source of income.
And then just really quick, what happens to those who don't get that financial or emotional support?
Well, the Indiana Department of Corrections does pay for their basic needs, so that's food, clothing, and health care. Beyond that, not much that they'll be getting.
Okay, thank you very much, Barbara.